Hi, I'm here. I made it. And for some reason, the lights are making my roots look grey, which we can't actually prove that they are right now. We don't have the data, so please don't go around telling people I have grey roots. Although God knows I would have earned them. Okay, starting off, yeah, I think it's the light coming through here. Doesn't matter. Starting with a recap, as we always do, of Dracula. Right. Mina has gone to Budapest to rescue Jonathan, who somehow crawled down the wall of the castle. Hey John, what's up? It was a little bit delayed because my eyelashes came off. I bought these, they were very cheap at the pharmacy the other day. They're called natural. Very, very natural lashes. But yeah. Mina went to Budapest. She met Sister Agatha, and I was very enchanted by that because it was the BBC Dracula show. Thanks. But, not really natural. If a baby got born with eyelashes like these, it would be really funny. I would find that so funny. Kind of easily amused though. What else? Oh right, Lucy. Yes. Lucy was sleepwalking. She's all like tired and anemic, so her fiance, Arthur Homewood, his dad is sick. So Lucy's mother's sick, Arthur's dad is sick, Lucy's sleepwalking, and Arthur Homewood, sorry, has brought in Jack Seward, the worst doctor in the world, who is one of the guys who proposed to her earlier. They've brought him in to check her out, and he's like, I have no idea what this is. I'm calling my old mentor, Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, who has a peculiar accent. I can't tell what it's meant to be, so I'm just doing like emphasizing the T's. And it seems to be working. It seems to be vaguely European. So yeah, Dr. Seward has been sending a couple of telegrams. One to Van Helsing saying Lucy's getting better, another to Van Helsing saying Lucy's getting a lot better, and another to Van Helsing saying terrible change for the worse, come at once, do not lose an hour. I hold over telegram to Homewood till I have seen you. So that was all pretty exciting, I thought. Oh, and Jonathan and Mina got married and whatever. Today brought to you by iced coffee, Granddad's favorite bev. Which is the really cool thing about the Bram Stoker Dracula from 1994. Yeah, 94. Is that Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder think maybe they did get actually married. They were in Eastern Europe for the Budapest scenes, and the priest was like a real Orthodox priest. So they think they may have been married, like properly. Just a bit of fun trivia. Right, 4 people. Are we ready? We are. Oh, and Renfield has gone a little bit crazy. He's been trying to escape a lot. And Dr. Seward is like, next time he tries to escape, we'll just let him and see where he goes. I mean, Dr. Seward is a really bad mental health professional, but he's actually not the worst one I've ever known in real life. Like, I've known mental health professionals who could take some lessons from Dr. Seward. Yeah. Light's kind of bugging me, but can I move over this way a little bit? Yeah. Got a very classy view of some curtains, an electrical outlet, some hair straighteners being hung over a coat hook. I live a glamorous life, is basically what I'm saying. All right, chapter 10. Letter. Dr. Seward to the Honourable Arthur Homewood, 6th of September. There's a Dracula outside. My dear Art, my news today is not so good. Lucy this morning had gone back a bit. There is, however, one good thing which has arisen from it. Mrs. Westenra was naturally anxious concerning Lucy and has consulted me professionally about her, as opposed to sneaking around with Arthur Homewood that he's been doing. I took advantage of the opportunity and told her that my old master, Van Helsing, the great specialist, was coming to stay with me, and that I would put her in his charge conjointly with myself. So now we can come and go without alarming her unduly, for a shock to her would mean sudden death, and this, in Lucy's weak condition, might be disastrous to her. We are hedged in with difficulties, all of us, my poor old fellow, but please God, we shall come through them all right. If any need, I shall write, so that if you do not hear from me, take it for granted that I am simply waiting for news. In haste, yours ever, John Seward. Dr. Seward's diary, 7th September. Van Helsing, so good. The first thing Van Helsing said to me when we met at Liverpool Street was, "Have you said anything to our young friend, the lover of her?" He's making this shit up. He's an English man who's pretending to be a foreigner because he likes to act bizarre. No, I said, I waited till I had seen you, as I said in my telegram. I wrote him a letter simply telling him that you were coming, as Miss Westenra was not so well, and I should let him know if need be. Right, my friend, he said, quite right. Better he not know as yet, perhaps he shall never know. I pray so, but if it be needed, then he shall know all. And, my good friend John, let me caution you. You deal with the madmen. All men are mad in some way or the other, and inasmuch as you deal discreetly with your madmen, so deal with God's madmen too, the rest of the world. You tell not your madmen what you do, nor why you do it. You tell them not what you think. So you shall keep knowledge in its place where it may rest, where it may gather its kind around it and breed. You and I shall keep as yet what we know here and here. He touched me on the heart and on the forehead, and then touched himself the same way. I have for myself thoughts at the present. Later I shall unfold to you. So we see that John Seward, as a doctor, you don't tell the patients what you're going to do before you do it, because they're mental. Why would you? You just throw them in the cold bath, throw the ECT on top of that, do the lobotomy. It's really none of their business what treatment you give them. Why not now? I asked. It may do some good. We may arrive at some decision. He stopped and looked at me and said, my friend John, when the corn is grown, even before it is ripened, while the milk of its mother earth is in him, and the sunshine has not yet begun to paint him with his gold, the husbandman, he pull the ear and rub him between his rough hands and blow away the green chaff and say to you, look, he's good corn. He will make a good crop when the time comes. I did not see the application and told him so. For reply, he reached over and took my ear in his hand and pulled it playfully, as he used long ago to do at lectures, and said, the good husbandman tell you so then because he knows, but not till then. But you do not find the good husbandman dig up his planted corn to see if he grow. That is for the children who play at husbandry, and not for those who take it as of the work of their life. See you now, friend John. I have sown my corn, and nature has her work to do in making it sprout. If he sprout at all, there's some promise, and I wait till the ear begins to swell. He broke off, for he evidently saw that I understood. Did you, Jackie? Then he went on, and very gravely, Christ, this is hard. You were always a careful student, and your case book was ever more full than the rest. You were only a student then, now you are master, and I trust that good habit have not failed. Remember, my friend, that knowledge is stronger than memory, and we should not trust the weaker. Even if you have not kept the good practice, let me tell you that this case of our dear Miss is one that may be, mind I say, may be, of such interest to us and others that all the rest may not make him kick the beam, as your people say. Take then good note of it. Nothing is too small. I counsel you, put down in record even your doubts and surmises. Hereafter it may be of interest to you to see how true you guess. We learn from failure, not from success. Guess what's wrong with her. Go on, John. You write down what you think is wrong with her, and when I'm ready to tell you, we'll see if you got it. It'll be fun. It'll be like school when I used to pull your ear during lectures. When I described Lucy's symptoms, the same as before, but infinitely more marked, he looked very grave, but said nothing. He took with him a bag in which were many instruments and drugs, the ghastly paraphernalia of our beneficial trade, as he once called in one of his lectures, the equipment of a professor of the healing craft. When we were shown in, Mrs. Westenra met us. She was alarmed, but not nearly so much as I expected to find her. Nature, in one of her beneficent moods, has ordained that even death has some antidote to its own terrors. Here, in a case where any shock may prove fatal, matters are so ordered that from some cause or other, the things not personal, even the terrible change in her daughter, to whom she is so attached, do not seem to reach her. It is something like the way Dame Nature gathers round a foreign body an envelope of some insensitive tissue which can protect from evil that which it would otherwise harm by contact. If this be an ordered selfishness, then we should pause before we condemn anyone for the vice of egoism, for there may be deeper root for its causes than we have knowledge of. Okay, so something about Mrs. Westenra's heart condition makes her selfish and self-absorbed, but that's a good thing because, you know, she's dying anyway, fuck it. I used my knowledge of this phase of spiritual pathology, and laid down a rule that she should not be present with Lucy or think of her illness more than was absolutely required. She assented readily, so readily that I saw again the hand of nature fighting for life. I've never known any dying person to not give a shit about anything. Oh, yeah, maybe she's on a ton of really good Victorian drugs. That makes sense. Van Helsing and I were shown up to Lucy's room. If I was shocked when I saw her yesterday, I was horrified when I saw her today. Hey, Julie! Van Helsing and Dr. Seward have just gone to see Lucy. And Van Helsing has said a lot of really dumb shit about corn and growing it and pulling Jack's ear, and, you know, it's great. He seems very trustworthy. Sorry. She was ghastly, chalkily pale. The red seemed to have gone even from her lips and gums, and the bones of her face stood out prominently. Her breathing was painful to see or hear. Van Helsing's face grew set as marble, and his eyebrows converged till they almost touched over his nose. Trying to make it happen, it's not. Lucy lay motionless and did not seem to have strength to speak, so for a while we were all silent. Then Van Helsing beckoned to me, and we went gently out of the room. The instant we had closed the door, he stepped quickly along the passage to the next door, which was open. Then he pulled me quickly in with him and closed the door. My God, he said, this is dreadful. There is no time to be lost. She will die for sheer want of blood to keep the heart's action as it should be. There must be transfusion of blood at once. Is it you or me? I am younger and stronger, Professor. It must be me. Then get ready at once. I will bring up my bag. I am prepared. Now, this probably would have killed Lucy because they have no idea about blood types. They're just trying to get any old blood into her veins. Yeah, Van Helsing knows a lot about vampires, but he doesn't seem like a guy who's a real doctor. You know, seems like you never know his address but, like, sometimes you'll see his van around town, you'll be like, "Oh, yeah, that's where." I'm not sure if he lives in there or if he just, like, drives around. I mean, I went downstairs with him, and as we were going, there was a knock at the hall door. When we reached the hall, the maid had just opened the door, and Arthur was stepping quickly in. Yeah, yeah, blood types are not yet discovered, so but, Lucy's probably fucked anyway. He rushed up to me, saying in an eager whisper, "Jack, I was so anxious. I read between the lines of your letter and have been in an agony. The dad was better, so I ran down here to see for myself. Is not that gentleman Dr. Van Helsing? I am so thankful to you, sir, for coming." When first the professor's eye had lit upon him, he had been angry at his interruption at such a time. But now, as he took in his stalwart proportions and recognized the strong young manhood which seemed to emanate from him, his eyes gleamed. "Me too, Dr. Van Helsing. Just that description." Without a pause, he said to him gravely, as he held out his hand, "Sir, you have come in time. You are the lover of our dear miss. She is bad, very, very bad. Nay, my child, do not go like that." For he suddenly grew pale and sat down in a chair, almost fainting. "You are to help her. You can do more than any that live, and your courage is your best help." "What can I do?" said Arthur hoarsely. "Tell me, and I shall do it. My life is hers, and I would give the last drop of blood in my body for her." The professor has a strongly humorous side, and I could from all knowledge detect a trace of its origin in his answer. "My young sir, I do not ask so much as that. Not the last." "Oh, yeah, he's young, dumb, and full of blood. He's a he's a dreamboat." "What shall I do?" There was fire in his eyes, and his open nostril quivered with intent. I always find the Victorians very weird when they start talking about noses. We don't really write about noses as much anymore. Van Helsing clapped him on the shoulder. "Come," he said. "You are a man, and it is a man we want. You are better than me, better than my friend John." Arthur looked bewildered, and the professor went on by explaining in a kindly way. "Young miss is bad, very bad. She wants blood, and blood she must have or die. My friend John and I have consulted, and we are about to perform what we call transfusion of blood, to transfer from full veins of one to the empty veins which pine for him. John was to give his blood, as he is the more young and strong than me." Here Arthur took my hand and wrung it hard in silence. "But now you are here. You are more good than us, old or young, who toil much in the world of thought. Our nerves are not so calm, and our blood not so bright than yours." Arthur turned to him and said, "If you only knew how gladly I would die for her, you would understand." "You probably will, Maisie, because I don't think they're going to sterilize the instruments." He stopped with a sort of choke in his voice. "Good boy," said Van Helsing. "In the not so far off, you will be happy that you have done all for her you love. Come now and be silent. You shall kiss her once before it is done, but then you must go and you must leave at my sign. Say no word to Madame. You know how it is with her. There must be no shock. Any knowledge of this would be one. Come." It's so hard to do this Van Helsing thing, but you should see how it's written. I mean, my God. We all went up to Lucy's room. Arthur, by direction, remained outside. Lucy turned her head and looked at us, but said nothing. She was not asleep, but she was simply too weak to make the effort. Her eyes spoke to us, that was all. Van Helsing took some things from his bag and laid them on a little table out of sight. Then he mixed a narcotic, and coming over to the bed, said cheerily, "Now, little miss, here is your medicine. Drink it off like a good child. See, I lift you, so that to swallow is easy. Yes." She had made the effort with success. Yeah. Well, us scholars, uh, we're a lot smarter than you, and we can read really hard books, and some of us are doctors even, but I bet your blood is really bright red. I bet it's amazing. Yeah, we need a himbo. Just holding out for a himbo till the end of the night. That's beautiful. It astonished me how long the drug took to act. This, in fact, marks the extent of her weakness. The time seemed endless until sleep began to flicker her eyelids. At last, however, the narcotic began to manifest its potency, and she fell into a deep sleep. When the professor was satisfied, he called Arthur into the room and bade him strip off his coat. Then he added, "You may take that one little kiss, whilst I bring over the table. Friend John, help to me." So neither of us looked whilst he bent over her. "I know you guys are engaged, but it's a little bit weird." "No, I suppose that's okay. Giving her a little bit of a kiss when she's just completely dying. Probably fine. As long as you don't charge for it." Van Helsing, turning to me, said, "He is so young and strong, and of blood so pure that we need not defibrinate it." Defibrinate? I have no idea what defibrinate means in this Victorian context. I suppose you take the blood out and shake it real hard, and that's kind of like sterilizing your instruments. Although I believe infection is understood now. Oh, I can't remember. It's been ages since I did a paper on medicine. History. I was never in med school. My God, can you imagine? I would have cut off so many people's heads. It would have been amazing. Oh yeah, fibrin. Fibrin is the himbo molecule. It's if there's not very much in the blood, you really do need to defibrinate it and remove it. But if there's too much in the blood, then it's actually really good for you. Oh, okay. Fibrin is not the himbo molecule. I was not incorrect, but I did not use the correct words to say a thing that was a fact. So removing fibrin, thank you, John, is so the blood won't clot. But I gather they're going to kind of do it so fast that they don't really need to. Then, with swiftness but with absolute method, Van Helsing performed the operation. As the transfusion went on, something like life seemed to come back to poor Lucy's cheeks, and through Arthur's growing pallor, the joy of his face seemed absolutely to shine. After a bit, I began to grow anxious, for the loss of blood was telling on Arthur, strong man as he was. It gave me an idea of what a terrible strain Lucy's system must have undergone, that what weakened Arthur only partially restored her. But the professor's face was set, and he stood watch in hand and with his eyes fixed now on the patient and now on Arthur. I could hear my own heartbeat. Presently he said in a soft voice, "Do not stir an instant. 'Tis enough. You attend him, I will look to her." When all was over, I could see how much Arthur was weakened. I dressed the wound and took his arm to bring him away. When Van Helsing spoke without turning around, the man seems to have eyes in the back of his head. "The brave lover, I think, deserve another kiss, which he shall have presently." "Don't kiss him, Van Helsing. I know you're horny for Arthur Holmwood. Everyone in this book is. Just don't kiss him while he's weak from blood loss, you know." Based on the Habsburgs being the anti-himbos and lacking in clotting, I think fibrin being the himbocule is justified. I agree, John, that we should write a medical textbook for the history of medicine with some theories about the Habsburgs. and the Romanovs. Was Nicholas II a himbo? Don't reply. Don't reply. I don't want to know. It really upsets me when I think about a perfectly good himbo dying. I can't handle it. And as he had now finished his operation, Van Helsing, he adjusted the pillow to the patient's head. As he did so, the narrow black velvet band, which she seems always to wear round her throat, buckled with an old diamond buckle which her lover had given her, was dragged a little up and showed a red mark on her throat. Arthur did not notice it, but I could hear the deep hiss of indrawn breath, which was one of Van Helsing's ways of betraying emotion. It's subtle. I don't know if you picked up on that. He said nothing at the moment, but turned to me, saying, "Now take down our brave young lover, give him of the port wine, and let him lie down a while. He must then go home and rest, sleep much, and eat much, and he may be recruited of what he has so given to his love. He must not stay here. Hold a moment. I may take it, sir, that you are anxious of result. Then bring with you that in all ways the operation was successful. You have saved her life this time, and you can go home and rest easy in mind that all that can be is. I shall tell her all when she is well. She shall love you none the less for what you have done. Goodbye." When Arthur had gone, I went back into the room. Lucy was sleeping gently, but her breathing was stronger. I could see the counterpane move as her breast heaved. "Jack, don't look at her heaving breast. She said she doesn't want you to marry her." By the bedside sat Van Helsing, looking at her intently. The velvet band again covered the red mark. I asked the professor in a whisper, "What do you make of that mark on her throat?" "What do you make of it?" "I have not examined it yet," I answered, and then and there proceeded to loose the band. Just over the external jugular vein there were 2 punctures, not large, but not wholesome looking. "They're still not large. Dracula's got micro teeth." There was no sign of disease, but the edges were white and worn-looking, as by some trituration. It at once occurred to me that this wound, or whatever it was, might be the means of that manifest loss of blood. But I abandoned the idea as soon as formed, for such a thing could not be. The whole bed would have been drenched to a scarlet with the blood which the girl must have lost to leave such a pallor as she had before the transfusion. "Well," said Van Helsing. "Well," said I can make nothing of it." The professor stood up. "I must go back to Amsterdam tonight," he said. "There are books and things there which I want. You must remain here all the night, and you must not let your sight pass from her." "Shall I have a nurse?" I asked. "We are the best nurses, you and I. You keep watch all night. See that she is well fed and that nothing disturbs her. You must not sleep all the night. Later on we can sleep, you and I. I shall be back as soon as possible, and then we may begin." "May begin?" I said. "What on earth do you mean?" "We shall see," he answered, as he hurried out. He came back a moment later and put his head inside the door, and said, with a warning finger held up, "Remember, she is your charge. If you leave her and harm befall, you shall not sleep easy hereafter." I love the idea. Like, it was the first thing that popped into my head. Like the Van Helsing is, he'll be back in the morning, and then you'll see the treatment that he's got in mind. But I personally would be like, I have an amazing treatment in mind. It's going to cure everything. Yeah, I'll come back in the morning, and I guess we'll both see what that is. It's going to be whim-based medicine. Ice coffee. Really like iced coffee. Whenever I went out for lunch with my Nana and Granddad would always get the iced coffee. And then we would just kind of like rip it apart. Like we were on friggin' America's Got Talent. Like how well this particular iced tea shaped up, what they did wrong, what they could have done to improve. I miss him, you know. Dr. Seward's diary continued. 8th of September. I sat up all night with Lucy. The opiate worked itself off towards dusk, and she waked naturally. She looked a different being from what she had been before the operation. Her spirits even were good, and she was full of a happy vivacity, but I could see evidences of the absolute prostration which she had undergone. When I told Mrs. Westenra that Dr. Van Helsing had directed that I should sit up with her, she almost pooh-poohed the idea. What a cunt! Pointing out her daughter's renewed strength and excellent spirits. I was firm, however, and made preparations for my long vigil. When her maid had prepared her for the night, I came in, having in the meantime had supper, and took a seat by the bedside. She did not in any way make objection, but looked at me gratefully whenever I caught her eye. After a long spell, she seemed sinking off to sleep, but with an effort seemed to pull herself together and shook it off. This was repeated several times, with greater effort and with shorter pauses as the time moved on. It was apparent that she did not want to sleep, so I tackled the subject at once. You do not want to go to sleep? No, I'm afraid. Afraid to go to sleep? Why so? It is the boon we all crave for. Ah, not if you were like me. If sleep was to you a presage of horror. A presage of horror? What on earth do you mean? I don't know. Oh, I don't know, and that is what is so terrible. All this weakness comes to me in sleep, until I dread the very thought. But, my dear girl, you may sleep tonight. I am here watching you, and I can promise that nothing will happen. Ah, I can trust you. I seized the opportunity and said, I promise you that if I see any evidence of bad dreams, I will wake you at once. You will? Will you really? How good you are to me. Then I will sleep. And almost at the word, she gave a deep sigh of relief and sank back. Asleep. I used to get sleep paralysis. And if I could, get maybe not Dr. Seward, but an ethical person to sit up with me all night and try and figure out when I'm experiencing sleep paralysis and wake me awake, shake me awake, that would have been amazing. I almost never get it anymore. All night long I watched by her. She never stirred, but slept on in a deep, tranquil, life-giving, health-giving sleep. Her lips were slightly parted, and her breast rose and fell with the regularity of a pendulum, while her other breast seemed to rise and fall with no rhythm at all. It was peculiar. I had never seen anything like it. Part of that wasn't in the book. There was a smile on her face, and it was evident that no bad dreams had come to disturb her peace of mind. In the early morning her maid came, and I left her in her care and took myself back home, for I was anxious about many things. I sent a short wire to Van Helsing and to Arthur, telling them of the excellent result of the operation. My own work, with its manifold arrears, took me all day to clear off. It was dark when I was able to inquire about my zoophagous patient, Renfield. The report was good. He had been quite quiet for the past day and night. a telegram came from Van Helsing in Amsterdam whilst I was at dinner, suggesting that I should be at Hillingham tonight, as it might be well to be at hand, and stating that he was leaving by the night mail and would join me early in the morning. Sorry, sitting up. The couch is already creaking. It's a good couch though. $4. God bless Trade Me. God bless people moving out who just want to get rid of it. 9th of September. I was pretty tired and worn out when I got to Hillingham. For 2 nights I had hardly had a wink of sleep, and my brain was beginning to feel that numbness which marks cerebral exhaustion. Lucy was up and in cheerful spirits. When she shook hands with me, she looked sharply in my face and said, "No sitting up tonight for you. You are worn out. I am quite well again. Indeed I am. And if there is to be any sitting up, it is I who will sit up with you." I would not argue the point, but went and had my supper. Lucy came with me, and, enlivened by her charming presence, I made an excellent meal and had a couple of glasses of the more than excellent port. Then Lucy took me upstairs and showed me a room next to her own where a cosy fire was burning. "Now," she said, "you must stay here. I shall leave this door open and my door too. You can lie on the sofa, for I know that nothing would induce any of you doctors to go to bed whilst there is a patient above the horizon. If you want anything, I shall call out. If I want anything, I shall call out, and you can come to me at once." I could not but acquiesce, for I was dog-tired, and could not have sat up had I tried. So, on her renewing her promise to call me if she should want anything, I lay on the sofa and forgot about everything. See, here I think Van Helsing really should have shared quite a lot of information with Dr. Seward. He's given him some strict orders that, physically are very difficult to obey, sitting up all night, several nights in a row. And he just hasn't impressed on him how important it is. But, I'm sure everything will be fine. It'll be great. Lucy Westenra's diary, 9th of September. I feel so happy tonight. I have been so miserably weak that to be able to think and move about is like feeling sunshine after a long spell of east wind out of a steel sky. Somehow Arthur feels very, very close to me. I seem to feel his presence warm about me. I suppose it is that sickness and weakness are selfish things, and turn our inner eyes and sympathy on ourselves, whilst health and strength give love rein, and in thought and feeling he can wander where he wills. I know where my thoughts are. If Arthur only knew. My dear, your ears must tingle as you sleep, as mine do waking. Oh, the blissful rest of last night. How I slept, with that dear, good Dr. Seward watching me. And tonight I shall not fear to sleep, since he is close at hand and within call. Thank everybody for being so good to me. Thank God. Good night, Arthur. Oh, you poor stupid bitch. Dr. Seward's diary, 10th of September. I was conscious of the professor's hand on my head and started awake all in a second. That is one of the things we learn in an asylum, at any rate. And how was our patient? Well, when I left her, or rather when she left me, I answered. Come, let us see, he said, and together we went into the room. The blind was down, and I went over to raise it gently, whilst Van Helsing stepped with his soft, cat-like tread over to the bed. As I raised the blind and the morning sunlight flooded the room, I heard the professor's low hiss of inspiration, and knowing its rarity, a deadly fear shot through my heart. As I passed over, he moved back, and his exclamation of horror, Gott in Himmel, needed no enforcement from his agonized face. He raised his hand and pointed to the bed. and his iron face was drawn and ashen white. I felt my knees begin to tremble. There on the bed, seemingly in a swoon, lay poor Lucy, more horribly white and wan-looking than ever. Even the lips were white, and the gums seemed to have shrunken back from the teeth, as we sometimes see in a corpse after a prolonged illness. Van Helsing raised his foot to stamp in anger, but the instinct of his life and all the long years of habit stood to him, and he brought it down again softly. "Quick," he said, "bring the brandy." I flew to the dining room and returned with the decanter. He wetted the poor white lips with it, and together we rubbed palm and wrist and heart. He felt her heart, and after a few moments of agonizing suspense said, "It is not too late. It beats, though but feebly. All our work is undone. We must begin again. There is no young Arthur here now. I have to call on you yourself this time, friend John." As he spoke, he was dipping into his bag and producing the instruments for transfusion. I had taken off my coat and rolled up my shirt sleeve. There was no possibility of an opiate just at present, and no need of one, and so, without a moment's delay, we began the operation. Blood transfusion, without any knowledge of blood types, and probably without sterilizing instruments, number 2. After a time, it did not seem a short time either, for the draining away of one's blood, no matter how willingly it be given, is a terrible feeling. Van Helsing held up a warning finger. "Do not stir," he said. "But I fear that with growing strength she may wake, and that would make danger. Oh, so much danger. But I shall precaution take. I shall give hypodermic injection of morphia." He proceeded then, swiftly and deftly, to carry out his intent. The effect on Lucy was not bad, for the faint seemed to merge subtly into the narcotic sleep. It was with a feeling of personal pride that I could see a faint tinge of colour steal back into the pallid cheeks and lips. No man knows, till he experiences it, what it is to feel his own life-blood drawn away into the veins of the woman he loves. That's right, you weren't expecting a horny part of the book right there. Yep. I imagine it's quite a unique feeling. Poor old Dr. Stewart. The professor watched me critically. "That will do," he said. "Already," I remonstrated, "you took a great deal more from art." To which he smiled, a sad sort of smile, as he replied, "He is her lover, her fiancé. You have work, much work, to do for her and to others, and the present will suffice." It's a weird kind of horny. It's wow, it just feels so great to feel the life draining out of me, to go into a blood transfusion to the woman I love who rejected me, but she can't reject my blood right now because she needs it not to die. Ah, it just feels so chivalrous. When we stopped the operation, he attended to Lucy, whilst I applied digital pressure to my own incision. I lay down whilst I waited his leisure to attend to me, for I felt faint and a little sick. By and by he bound up my wound and sent me downstairs to get a glass of wine for myself. As I was leaving the room, he came after me and half whispered, "Mind, nothing must be said of this. If our young lover should turn up unexpected as before, no word to him. It would at once frighten him and enjealous him too. There must be none. So." When I came back, he looked at me carefully and then said, "You are not much the worse. Go into the room and lie on your sofa and rest a while. Then have much breakfast and come here to me." I followed out his orders, for I knew how right and wise they were. I had done my part, and now my next duty was to keep up my strength. I felt very weak. and in the weakness lost something of the amazement at what had occurred. I fell asleep on the sofa, however, wondering over and over again how Lucy had made such a retrograde movement, and how she could have been drained of so much blood with no sign anywhere to show for it. I think I must have continued my wonder in my dreams, for sleeping and waking, my thoughts always came back to the little punctures in her throat and the ragged, exhausted appearance of their edges, tiny though they were. I love how everyone keeps emphasizing how small Dracula's fangs are. I know that it's because, that wound is far too small to, you know, make her seriously suffer from blood loss. Like, where's the blood gone? But I choose to think that it's microfang shaming. Lucy slept well into the day. When she woke, she was fairly well and strong, though not nearly so much so as the day before. When Van Helsing had seen her, he went out for a walk, leaving me in charge, with strict instructions that I was not to leave her for a moment. I could hear his voice in the hall asking the way to the nearest telegraph office. Lucy chatted with me freely and seemed quite unconscious that anything had happened. I tried to keep her amused and interested. When her mother came up to see her, she did not seem to notice any change whatever, but said to me gratefully, "We owe you so much, Dr. Seward, for all you have done, but you really must now take care not to overwork yourself. You are looking pale yourself. You want a wife to nurse and look after you a bit, that you do." As she spoke, Lucy turned crimson, though it was only momentarily, for her poor wasted veins could not stand for long such an unwanted drain to the head. The reaction came in excessive pallor as she turned imploring eyes on me. I smiled and nodded and laid my finger on my lips. With a sigh, she sank back amid her pillows. Don't know if this is because her mother doesn't know that Dr. Seward proposed to her. I thought her mother did knew. I thought she did knew that. She didn't knew that. Right. Very nice. Van Helsing returned in a couple of hours and presently said to me, "Now you go home and eat much and drink enough. Make yourself strong. I stay here tonight, and I shall sit up with little miss myself. You and I must watch the case, and we must have none other to know. I have grave reasons. No, do not ask them. Think what you will. Do not fear to think even the most not probable. Good night." She didn't knew that. Ah, Lucy. I was trying to get a little bit of cushion under my leg there. That's better. In the hall, two of the maids came to me and asked if they or either of them might not sit up with Miss Lucy. They implored me to let them, and when I said it was Dr. Van Helsing's wish that either he or I should sit up, they asked me quite piteously to intercede with the foreign gentleman. He was foreign, all right. I was much touched by their kindness. Perhaps it is because I am weak at present, and perhaps because it was on Lucy's account that their devotion was manifested. For over and over again have I seen similar instances of women's kindness. Dr. Seward is trying to figure out empathy and compassion. He's got far enough to know that it's kind of a chick thing for some reason. He'll get there. I mean, he won't, but... I got back here in time for a late dinner, went my rounds, all well, and sat this down while waiting for sleep. It is coming. 11th of September, this afternoon, I went over to Hillingham. Found Van Helsing in excellent spirits and Lucy much better. Shortly after I had arrived, a big parcel from abroad came for the professor. He opened it with much impressment, assumed, of course, and showed a great bundle of white flowers. "These are for you, Miss Lucy," he said. "For me? Oh, Dr. Van Helsing. Waiting on my fourth proposal before I, die of Yoda bites or whatever this is. Yes, my dear, but not for you to play with. These are medicines. Here Lucy made a wry face. Probably because he said this isn't for you to play with, like she was a baby. Lucy Westenra is a grown, dying woman. You respect her, Doctor. Nay, but they are not here to take in a decoction or in nauseous form, so you need not snub that so charming nose, or I shall point out to my friend Arthur what woes he may have to endure in seeing so much beauty that he loves so much distort. Aha, my pretty miss, that bring this so nice nose all straight again. This is medicinal, but you do not know how. I put him in your window, I make a pretty wreath, and hang him around your neck, so that you sleep well. Oh yes, they, like the lotus flower, make your trouble forgotten. It smells so like the waters of Lethe, and of that fountain of youth that the conquistadores sought for in the Floridas, and find him all too late. Whilst he was speaking, Lucy had been examining the flowers and smelling them. Now she threw them down, saying with half laughter and half disgust, "Oh, Professor, I believe you are only putting up a joke on me. Why, these flowers are only common garlic." To my surprise, Van Helsing rose up and said with all his sternness, his iron jaws set and his bushy eyebrows meeting, "No trifling with me. I never jest. There is grim purpose in all I do, and I warn you that you do not thwart me. Take care, for the sake of others, if not for your own." Then, seeing poor Lucy scared, as she might well be, he went on more gently, "Oh, little miss, my dear, do not fear me. I only do for your good. But there is much virtue to you in those so common flowers. See, I place them myself in your room. I make myself the wreath that you are to wear. But hush! No telling to others that make so inquisitive questions. We must obey, and silence is a part of obedience, and obedience is to bring you strong and well into loving arms that wait for you. Now sit still a while. Come with me, friend John, and you shall help me deck the room with my garlic, which is all the way from Haarlem, where my friend Van der Poel rears herb in his glass houses all the year. I had to telegraph yesterday, or they would not have been here." Yeah, Van Helsing has been given the waters of Lethe, of the River Lethe, many times to try and make him forget where he's from so they can teach him to speak again properly. But just doesn't take. He's got a natural immunity. Doctors are baffled. We went into the room, taking the flowers with us. The professor's actions were certainly odd, and not to be found in any pharmacopoeia that I ever heard of. First, he fastened up the windows and latched them securely. Next, taking a handful of the flowers, he rubbed them all over the sashes, as though to ensure that every whiff of air that might get in would be laden with the garlic smell. Then, with the wisp, he rubbed all over the jamb of the door, above, below, and at each side, and round the fireplace in the same way. It all seemed grotesque to me, and presently I said, "Well, Professor, I know you always have a reason for what you do, but this certainly puzzles me. It is well we have no skeptic here, or he would say that you are working some spell to keep out an evil spirit." "Perhaps I am," he answered quietly, as he began to make the wreath which Lucy was to wear round her neck. We then waited whilst Lucy made her toilet for the night. We've discussed this before. Making her toilet for the night just means doing her nightly routine. Putting on the cold cream, brushing the hair 1,000 times, or whatever Victorians used to do. And when she was in bed, he came and himself fixed the wreath of garlic round her neck. The last words he said to her were, "Take care you do not disturb it, and even if the room feel close, Do not tonight open the window or the door. I promise, said Lucy, and thank you both 1,000 times for all your kindness to me. Oh, what have I done to be blessed with such friends? Firstly, I don't know what I've been done to be blessed with the friends that I have right now, honestly. These people are just so good and so kind, and I'm such a sack of shit. Although, to be fair, I do say that straight up. But in Lucy's case, none of these men are your friends. They have all tried to marry you apart from Van Helsing, and he would have gotten around to it. Sorry, Lucy. I mean, even Mina, she's just into you. As we left the house in my fly, which was waiting, carriage, tiny little horse-drawn, Van Helsing said, "Tonight I can sleep in peace, and peace I want. 2 nights of travel, much reading in the day between, and much anxiety on the day to follow, and a night to sit up without to wink. Tomorrow in the morning early you call for me, and we come together to see our pretty miss, so much more strong for my spell which I have work. Ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho! Casting spells." He seemed so confident that I, remembering my own confidence 2 nights before and with the baneful result, felt awe and vague terror. It must have been my weakness that made me hesitate to tell it to my friend, but I felt it all the more, like unshed tears. And that is the end of chapter 10. So Lucy just keeps getting worse. Not great. She gets a transfusion from her fiance, feeling better. Dr. Seward doesn't realize how very important it is that he sit in the same room as her, and there goes Arthur's blood. And yeah, she gets another transfusion from Dr. Seward, and I'm sure now that Van Helsing is on the case, hanging garlic all around her room, I'm sure she will be just fine. There will be no more incompetence from the 2 stupidest doctors in the book. I think there are only 2 doctors in the book. Yeah. Yeah. But thank you all. I've read these analyses of Dracula that are like, oh, actually giving the blood transfusion is it's a very sexual thing. I guess. I mean, I see it. I see the argument for it, but it just seems kind of gross. Then again, I have never known that feeling of being a man. I've never known that feeling to start with, and feeling my blood leave my body to fill the veins of the woman I love, because I'm not in love with any women. And the whole blood thing, I don't understand that one either. So maybe it's all fine. Maybe it's lovely. Don't know. Yeah. Well, I have had fun wearing these lashes and a little bit less fun doing Van Helsing's voice, but I'm going to try and get a little bit better at it. Maybe read a little bit more slowly. Don't know. But yeah, thank you all for joining me today. It's a Monday, and I don't like them very much. It's just like the day that's the longest day between ketamine treatments. So it's not because I have to go to work on Monday, because I don't. And it's not for whatever reason Garfield hated Mondays, because he didn't have a job. So what was that about? Thank you. Thank you, John. I do suffer for my art. Thank you, Father Dog. Thank you for being here and cracking me up. And thank you all for making me think about the song Holding Out for a Himbo, because that's going to stay in my head for like, I don't know, probably forever if I'm going to be a vampire, which I probably am. Okay, thank you everybody. Join me again tomorrow. Actually, no, probably not tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. Tell Josh, like, tell him, and not here because this is the stream and I'm about to end it, but yeah, tell Josh in the chat what happened the other night in the D&D game, because I keep forgetting to. Anyway, thank you all for being here. See you tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe and drink water and go outside and open a window or whatever.